number one. By the way, we're doing percent problems, geometry problems, area problems, perimeter problems, volume problems, a lot of different kind of problems we're working on today. So, that's it. Let's look at this problem. All right, let's take a look at this problem. This is on a math test, 12 students earn an A. On a math test, 12 students earn an A. Let's take a look at this. All right, so it says, I know it's small, but that's why I'm reading it for you. On a math test, 12 students earn an A. This number is 25% of the total number of students in the class. How many students are in the class? So a way you could write this is 12 is 25% of what amount? Of what total? Of what amount? Last week I really emphasized that anytime you see that is a key word that would indicate a part. The small part of is a word that a lot of times indicates some total or whole, if you will. So we gave you a quick equation. The part is equal to the percent times a whole, the whole. This is the basic equation you're going to start with a lot of these percent problems. Part is a percent of a whole. You're going to use this. I put an asterisk here just to tell you how important it is. And now you're going to use that to solve this problem. All right, so 12 is part. 12 that's the part. You substitute that into the part of the equation. Percent, they gave you that, 25%. You write that as a decimal, 0.25. And times the whole, that's the unknown. You don't know what that is, so you put a variable there, x. My experience, now we could do this in more than one way, but my experience has been this is the easiest way to solve these percent problems. Part is equal to percent times a whole. So now you're solving for x by dividing by 0.25 on both sides. 0.25 on both sides. True enough, you could put that in a calculator, but we encourage our students not to use a calculator. We encourage our students to know how to evaluate that 12 divided by 0.25 by hand. You take the 0.25, divide that into 12. You move the decimal over 2, and you move the decimal over here 2. Bring it straight up. Move the decimal over here 1, 2. So now you just go ahead and divide that out. 25 cannot go into 12, so you don't put anything there. 25 can go into 120 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. You subtract, you get 20. Drop the 0 down. I believe that goes in 8 times. 8 times 25 is a 200, and you would select E. I hope you can see that. You would select E there. 8 times 5 is, you get 40. 8 times 2 plus the 4, you get that, you get 16. Plus 4, you get 20. So you get the answer 48 there. Final answer. All right, so call in if you have questions. 312-738-1060. A lot of the problems today are coming from, like I say, these standardized tests. We're narrowing all the problems down to percent problems, area problems, perimeter problems, volume problems, coming from the PSAT we did last week. And this week we did a GED problem earlier, and now we're doing an ACT problem for you. I'd love to do whatever problems you have, whatever problems those might be, but you got to call in. You got to call in. If you don't call in, as we do every week, I got plenty of problems for you. Let's take a look at another one. This is number 9. Number 9. So it says Umberto, number 9 here. All right, number 9 right here. So it says Umberto, that's a strange name. Umberto's mother expects an increase of 5% in her current annual salary of $36,000, what would her new annual salary be? Interesting problem. Interesting problem. You want a pay raise. Here I am, I'm your boss. I say to you, hey, you're impressive to me. You're so impressive to me, I'm going to multiply your salary. Would you be happy? Would you be happy? I say, hey, I'm going to multiply your salary. The answer, you would ask them a question. I'm happy you're going to multiply my salary. How much are you going to multiply it by? See, that's an important question, because I could try to be a trickster. I could say, I'm going to multiply your salary by 1. Well, hey, that's nothing. That's nothing. See, if you multiply somebody's salary by 1, it stays the same. Or, even worse, hey, I say, hey, I'm going to multiply your salary by 0.9, which is less than 1. That's actually a pay cut. That's actually a pay cut. But see, if you multiply somebody's salary by more than 1, that's when you're happy. Let's keep that in mind as we look at this problem. Umberto's mother expects an increase. That means you're going to multiply this salary by more than 1 of 5% in her current annual salary. So that means that she makes $36,000 right now, but you're going to multiply that by 1.05. Multiplying it by 1 keeps it the same, but multiplying by something more than 1 increases it, whatever percent that is, and that's 5%. So now what you're going to do is you could multiply all that out to get her new salary. True enough, we could do this by hand. True enough, we encourage our students to do this by hand, but just for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is just put this in the calculator. And by the way, you are able to use a calculator on the ACT. You multiply this out, and you get $37,800 would be her new salary, which would be C. That would be the answer C, final answer. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to do that. This is the most efficient way, in my opinion. Call in 312-738-1060. And we can answer whatever questions you have. I've got another problem. This is number 11 in the same ACT test prep book. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, that's not number 11. I want to look at number 19. Number 19. All right, another percent problem. Another percent problem. Let's take a look. This is number 19 right here. Man, I hope you all can see that. It says jeans normally sell for $35.95. They normally sell for that amount, and they are on sale for 25% off. How much do they cost during the sale to the nearest dollar? So, a couple ways you can go about doing this. If we have time, we'll do this mastery level. So you got $35.95 for the jeans, but they are on sale 25% off. There are two ways you can look at this. If the jeans are 25% off, that means that you're going to pay for 75% of the jeans. Another way to say 25% off is to say you're only paying 75%. That's another way of saying that. So you could multiply those two together. And again, we could do this by hand, but I'm trying to do as many problems as we can. We could do this by hand. By the way, I do have videos on my YouTube channel where it's called Dominate Math, where we practice in great detail on how to multiply decimals. You can check that out if you have time. So now, what we end up with, putting that in the calculator, is 26.962. So notice how they want you to round it to the nearest dollar, 26.9. Notice how they offer both 26 and 27. Well, if they rounded to the nearest dollar, you'd push that 26.9 up to 27 $27. All right, another way to do this same problem is I'm not going to do it I'm not going to complete it, but another way to do this same problem is to start with that equation part. I showed you this earlier in the show, is equal to the percent times a whole. Part is equal to percent times a whole. What you could do is you could say that the whole part is $35.95. $35.95, but you want to figure out what 25% of that is. You would multiply those two together. You would get, you take the 0.25 times the $35.95, and I just made a mistake somewhere. You would end up with $8.98, really $8.99. And what you would do, that would represent $8.99 would represent the part that you don't have to pay. You're taking 25% of $35.95. That represents the part you don't have to pay. But then the jeans costed $35.95. You don't have to pay $8.99. You would subtract those and you get something very close to $27. You get the same answer. My point is, you could do that in more than one way. That's called mastery level understanding. That's what we encourage our students to be able to operate at that level, mastery level. So here it says, a floor has the dimensions shown below. A floor has the dimensions shown below. Okay, so what we have is, it says that below, how many square feet of carpeting is needed to cover the entire floor? As you read this problem, you've got to be able to read it to see that they're not talking about the distances all the way around. That's perimeter. They say this is carpeting, so carpeting covers the inside of a shape. So you would have to be able to realize that this is an area problem and not a perimeter problem. All right, so what you would do here is, I'm going to just draw maybe a larger version of this. Draw a larger version of this. All right, so what we have now is this distance is 6, this distance is 21, 18, and 12. How would you find the area of an odd shape like this? An odd shape like this, well, you'd break it into more familiar a more familiar shape, either that way, or you could break it into two familiar shapes like so. So now what you have is, you have a rectangle here where the base of the rectangle, by the way, the formula for the area of a rectangle is base times height. Base times height. So the base of this rectangle is 21, and the height of this rectangle, just this rectangle here I'm focusing on, is 6. Similarly, the formula for this shape, which is also a rectangle, they gave you this distance as 6. So if this distance is 6, this distance is 6. This overall distance was given as 18. Well, if this is 18 and this is 6, the length of what you need is the difference of 18 minus 6, which is 12. So this distance here is 12. This distance here is 12. You end up with an area of base times height, or 12 times 12. So now you've got the area of this rectangle, which is 21 times 6, which is 126. This area is 126. This area here is 12 times 12, or 144. Get this 18 out of the way. I hope that's not confusing anybody. And now you'd add the area here to the area here. You'd get 10. You'd get 6 here, plus 1 is 7. And then you get 2. So final answer would be D, 270. 270. Call in, 312-738-1060. So that was more of an area problem. All right, that was more of an area problem. All right. So I think we have time for one more problem. One more problem. Let's take a look at, that was number 25. Let's take a look at number 28. Look at number 28. All right, so it says, what is the area? So it's another area problem. Let's try to get through two more problems if we can. All right, so this says, what is the area? All right, so it says, what is the area in square meters? That's another way that you would know you're working with area. The units, it's a giveaway. Of a right triangle with sides of 17. All right, 17 is a right triangle. 17 would have to be the longest side, which is always a hypotenuse. And 15 and 8. What is the area? All right, so what you'd have to be able to know there is two things. You'd have to know it's a right triangle, which would mean that it has a hypotenuse, and which the hypotenuse is always the longest side. The longest of the sides that were given was 17. So you would know to set up the triangle this way. The problem, whether this be 8 or that be 15, that's sort of irrelevant for this problem. So the formula for the area of a triangle, you'd also have to know that. The formula for the area of a triangle is half the base times the height. So now you would substitute into this formula. You'd have to go into the test knowing this formula. So you have half the base of 15 times the height of 8. You'd end up with half of 8, which is 4. You'd end up with 15 times 4, which is 60. 60 meters squared. The answer would be G. The answer would be G. Final answer. So we have time for one more problem. We have time for one more problem. Let's try to get through number 32. Try to get through, sorry about that, 32. All right, so it says, how long is side AB? We only have 1 minute left. How long is side AB? Well, they give you 19 here. They give you 29 here. That's a right triangle. You'd have to know they're given two sides. You can always get the third side using the Pythagorean theorem, which says the relationship is c squared is a squared plus b squared. We have told our students that the longest side, the hypotenuse, is always going into c. So you get 29 squared is equal to 19 squared plus the unknown side squared. And they want you to solve for b. You'd move the 19 squared over. 29 squared minus 19 squared is b squared. You take the square root of both sides, and you'd end up with the square root of 29 squared minus 19 squared, or f.